Hello, mighty companion. This is Earl Purdy, and I want to welcome you to Hardcore Course in Miracles here on Facebook Live. And we are going to talk about the illusions of the ego. We're going to talk about how do you know when you're listening to your higher power and your inner guidance in order to make decisions and choices. We're going to talk about what are the false ideas of the part of your mind called the ego that's jamming you up. So we want to get you past anything that's blocking you or keeping you afraid or keeping you guilty or confused. We're going to talk about that here on A Course in Miracles. This is Earl Purdy. I want to welcome you, and we're going to start out with our theme song, We Are One, from Brother John Christmas at johnchristmas.com if you want to get the music. So here we go.
There's a call for God, I see it everywhere. Everybody's running scared, and everything is turning upside down. But the words I hear, they keep coming through from deep inside of me and you. It's telling us that love is who I am. You and me were not that far apart. But we're beating the same heart. We've been together from the start. Tell me, can you hear it? Tell me, can you feel it? Put your arms around it and know that we are one. Yeah, yeah, we are one. Now let's come together and understand that Christ was born inside of every man. He's waiting for us to choose him as ourselves.
We have to choose love as ourselves.
When you choose him, you know you choose me too. And everyone becomes a part of you. And then you will know that love is who I am. You and me were not that far apart. Yeah, we're beating the same heart. We've been together from the start. Tell me, can you hear it? Tell me, can you feel it? Put your arms around it and know that we are one. Yeah, yeah, we are one. Oh, we are one.
Mighty companions, this is Earl Raj Purdy. I want to welcome you to Hardcore Course in Miracles. That means hardcore expressions of truth and love. I want to welcome you because we're going to go deep. We're going to start with chapter 4, the illusions of the ego, the false ideas of the mind that's unhappy. We're going to show you exactly how to start getting rid of every part of you that self-sabotages you in any way. I'm so glad to do this with you.
You and me were not that far apart. Yeah, we're beating the same heart. We've been together from the start. Tell me, can you hear it? Tell me, can you feel comes around it, know that we are one. Oh, we are one. Yeah, yeah, we are one. Oh, we are one. I am you, and you are me.
I am you and you are me. I am you and you are me. Welcome to Hardcore Course in Miracles, Mighty Companion. I am Earl Purdy, and I am excited because Hardcore Course in Miracles can be helpful to anyone, whether you're a Course in Miracles student or not, but it is especially geared toward those sincere, serious students of A Course in Miracles who want to take advantage of my 4 decades plus experience of teaching and learning A Course in Miracles. And so if you really want to have the miracles, and I mean miracles in your life, are you ready for miracles in your life? Then we are going to start, and we're going to be focusing in on chapter 4, the illusions of the ego in the Course in Miracles text. And it's going to be on page 52 in the Foundation for Inner Peace, the Blue Book. Chapter 4, the illusions, which means the false ideas of the ego, which is the fearful wrong mind. One of the things I love about the Course in Miracles is I've taken the time to really memorize a lot of the definitions that the Course in Miracles uses for the terms that it uses. And sometimes I substitute these definitions so that you can get a clearer understanding, because the Course in Miracles is really profoundly simple. It's just that it is as complicated as it needs to be for people who need complicated teachings. And so it can be as complicated and confusing as you want it to be, or it can be as simple and direct as you want it to be. And I really want to give you some tips about how to read and study it. And if you're not a regular Course in Miracles student, but you find yourself listening to this, go ahead and check it out. Still, you may hear something that's extremely valuable to you. The only guidelines to the Course in Miracles are this. This is the only guidelines. You need not believe the ideas. So remember that you don't have to believe the ideas. Remember that you don't have to accept the ideas. Remember that you need not even welcome the ideas. Remember that some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. So just get that clear in your mind. Some of the ideas from A Course in Miracles you may actively resist. So don't expect to always like or not have some resistance to some of the things that you might hear. Some of the ideas in the Course in Miracles you're going to find hard to believe, because the Course in Miracles talks as if you are a spiritual being having a human experience. The Course in Miracles talks like you are a soul and that you are more than the physical body. So some of the ideas that I say to you may be hard to believe, but even though some of the ideas from A Course in Miracles may be hard to believe, that doesn't mean it's not true just because you don't believe something. Don't you know that just because you don't believe something, that doesn't mean it's not true. And just because you may not understand something does not mean it's not true. The Course in Miracles says some of the stuff I say may startle you. Some of the things from A Course in Miracles may startle you. And most of all, what is it asking you to not do? Well, the Course in Miracles, more than anything, is asking you not to analyze the ideas. I do not analyze the Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles says hundreds of times in the book, remember, don't forget, remember, don't forget, remember. So I see myself as the remembering coach. I also see myself as the divine repetition teacher, because the way that you actually accept a new idea and learn a new idea, the Course in Miracles says in lessons 284 in the workbook, it says, this is the truth, at first to be but said, and then repeated many times, and next to be accepted as but partly true, with many reservations. Then you keep repeating it And it says, then to be considered seriously more and more, and finally accepted as the truth. So when you want to accept a new idea, the way that you accept a new idea is to say it to yourself over and over and over and over and over again. You repeat the new idea. And when you keep repeating it, you're going to start to accept it as partially true, and you might have some reservations, and then you keep on repeating the truth to yourself over and over and over again. And then what happens one day with the Course in Miracles or anything you're trying to believe is that all of a sudden you find that you are considering the ideas, that you are actually seriously considering the ideas that you are hearing more and more, until you finally accept the ideas as true. That's what you do. So it's not about analyzation of it. It's about, I need to remember what I'm being told, and I need to apply what I'm being told. Then the Course says, you're not asked to judge or analyze the ideas at all. Their use will give the ideas meaning to you and will show you that the ideas are true. So I'm about the practical application of the ideas in the Course in Miracles to our everyday life. Because I don't know about you, but if I can't apply what I'm studying to my everyday life, it doesn't have a whole lot of value to me. So I'm looking at this in terms of, what is the Course in Miracles telling me that I need to think, and how I need to look at things if I want to have total fulfillment, if I want to have happiness, if I want to have peace? Another thing I want to tell you is that the Course in Miracles is all about correcting our perception, correcting our interpretation, correcting the way we're looking at things. So the Course in Miracles teaches you a new way to look at things so that you don't lose your peace, okay? The Course in Miracles is not a book on manifesting. The Course in Miracles is not a book on manifesting, even though I have manifested more of the things that I wanted to experience in my life through studying the Course in Miracles, even though nothing in the book is about manifesting anything but happiness and peace and love and joy and a connection to Source. So let's get clear. The Course in Miracles is a spiritual teaching. It's a spiritual teaching, but it's also teaching how to get rid of all the blocks to love, to happiness, to freedom. So it is working at the level of perception. So the Course in Miracles, because it's really, I don't care what you think is going on in your life, in the outer world. What's happening is the meaning that you're giving to it. That's what's making you feel the way that you feel. However you're feeling right now about anything that's going on in your life, the reason why you're feeling that way is because of your interpretation of it. It's because of the meaning that you're giving to it. I will repeat, none of the external situations and circumstances that you're going through, it's not those external situations and circumstances and people that's causing you to feel the way you feel. What's causing you to feel the way you feel is the way you think. What's causing you to feel the way you feel is the way you think is causing you to feel the way you feel right now. Is coming from the way you're looking at whatever is going on. And the Course in Miracles says there's one part of our mind that's been conditioned and programmed and trained by the world, and the Course calls that the ego. The ego is the part of us that thinks that we're separate, the part of you that thinks that you are a body, that you are a separate human being. The Course in Miracles calls the part of the mind that keeps guilt and fear and anger and lack going. The Course in Miracles calls that the ego, right? And then the part of your mind that is divine, the part of your mind that is infinitely wise and loving and sane, that is the real you. And it's also what the Course in Miracles calls the Holy Spirit. So the Holy Spirit, the Holy Spirit is your loving right mind, and the ego is your fearful wrong mind. But both of them are within your mind. So we're going to start on chapter 4, the illusions of the ego, which is the illusions of the fearful, frightening mind. And we're going to go through that because this is the chapter in A Course in Miracles that explains exactly what the ego is, because you hear the term ego a lot in the Course in Miracles, and it's just the idea of you being separate. So let's dive into it. Page 53 in the text in the Foundation for Inner Peace version of the course. Do you know that the Bible says that you should go with the brother twice as far as he asks? So what is it that we're being told? You should go with the person twice as far as they ask. But what is it that the Bible doesn't suggest? Well, it doesn't suggest that you set the person back on their journey. Okay, I'm going to go with you twice as far as you asked me to, but I'm certainly I don't want to set you back on your journey. So do you know that being devoted to someone, being devoted to a brother, being devoted to an equal, the Course in Miracles cannot set you back either. So my devotion to you doesn't set you back. Your devotion to me and your devotion to anyone, it doesn't set you back either. So what is it that leads to mutual progress? Okay, so let's say you're in a relationship with someone. This can be a business relationship. It can be a family relationship. It can be a romantic relationship. It doesn't make any difference. What do you do if you want to have mutual progress? Well, if you want to have mutual progress, if you want to have mutual progress, what do? Well, you first of all, you want to be devoted to each other. You want to be devoted to each other. And that can be a devotion in a friendship. That can be a devotion in a romantic relationship. That can be a devotion in a job relationship or a professional relationship or a business relationship. The truth applies to everything equally. So one of the things I'd like to tell you is don't use the truth in every situation in your life. Don't try to separate using spiritual principles from what you're going through in your everyday life. So how can you tell when you're genuinely devoted? How can you tell when you are genuinely devoted? Well, it says the result of genuine devotion is inspiration. So do you know that when you're in a relationship with someone and you are devoted, then you feel inspired. You inspire each other. You move each other. When it's a genuine devotion, you're inspired. And so inspiration is a word which properly understood, if you understand inspiration properly, inspiration is the opposite of fatigue. So when you're inspired, you don't feel tired. When you feel inspired, you're not all drained. So if you're in a relationship, and if you're in a relationship with another person and you're trying to have devotion in that relationship, and that means that you are not feeling all tired and drained and fatigued. So what does it mean to be fatigued? The Course in Miracles says to be fatigued is to be dispirited. What? So if you feel dispirited, if you feel fatigued, you're not tapping into your genuine devotion. You're not tapping into your true spiritual self. Do you know that when you're tapping into your true spiritual self, you feel inspired, you feel energized? I was telling a client that I was working with just the other day that one of the things that the Course in Miracles says is in the annotated version of A Course in Miracles is that when the Holy Spirit, when the higher power is directing you to help somebody, then you can tell, because when you're helping that person, when you're working with that person, you feel energized yourself. But it also says if you are trying to fix somebody or trying to change somebody or trying to get somebody to be different, and it looks like all you're meeting is a lot of resistance and you feel drained, then that means that that is not someone that Spirit is leading you to help. Spirit isn't trying to get you to help that person. You are deciding to help that person. And when you are making the decision about who you're going to help or fix, that's not coming from your right mind, according to the Course. That's coming from your ego. That's coming from your wrong mind. Because someone that Spirit is asking you to help, you will not feel dispirited. You won't feel fatigued. And it says it right here. To be fatigued is to be dispirited, but to be inspired is to be in the Spirit. To be egocentric is to be dispirited. So when you're in your ego, when you're in wrong-mindedness, which is A Course in Miracles definition for the ego, when you're in wrong-mindedness, you feel dispirited, you feel fatigued. But to be self-centered in the right sense, how can you tell when you are self-centered in the correct way? Well, you can tell that you are self-centered in the correct way because you feel inspired. And to feel inspired is to be in spirit. So let's get this clear. If you're following your right mind, if you're following your right guidance, if you're following Spirit's guidance, if you're following God's guidance, then you feel inspired. When you're listening to your guidance, when you're following what you are telling yourself that's not based on your true inner guidance, then you feel fatigued and you don't feel inspired and you don't feel devoted. So that's how you can tell right off the bat whether or not you are listening to the right voice or you're listening to the wrong voice. So who does the Course in Miracles call the enlightened ones? The person that's enlightened is the person that's truly inspired. You know, when I do the Course in Miracles, I feel inspired. I feel in spirit. I feel joyful. I feel like it's the one time for sure that I'm doing the thing that I was meant to do, that I feel like I was meant to do on this planet. So even though I've been doing it 41 years next week, I am as excited about the Course in Miracles, or actually more excited about the Course in Miracles than ever before, because it works. A Course in Miracles works. I cannot even begin to tell you how many situations and circumstances and perceptions have been healed and changed through my study and practice of A Course in Miracles. And if I could give you a tip after 40 years and working with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, it's that stop analyzing A Course in Miracles and start remembering what it's saying. If you're a Course in Miracles student, start reading the book, and remembering what it's saying. What do you mean, Earl? Well, telling you that devotion to another person is not going to set you back. If you're devoted, it's going to lead to mutual progress. The way that you can tell if you're really devoted is that you feel inspiration. And if you're feeling inspiration and you're feeling devotion, you don't feel tired and you don't feel drained. When you're in your ego, when you're in the wrong mind, when you're listening to the lying voice in you, you feel dispirited. When you are self-centered in the correct way, then you feel inspired. And when you're inspired, when you're in spirit, that's when you are enlightened. And when you are in spirit, when you are enlightened, guess what? You cannot abide in darkness. So are you aware that when the Course in Miracles uses the term darkness, it means ignorance, it means fear, it means guilt. So when you're truly inspired, you're not in fear, you are not in anger, you are not in lack, in sickness, in your perception. So right off the bat, the Course in Miracles is in one paragraph has told us exactly how to tell when you're listening to the right voice in you and when you're listening to the wrong voice in you. So those areas of your life that you feel drained, that you don't feel inspired, that you don't feel happy, that you don't feel joyful, you're not listening to your true voice. You're not listening to the voice of love. You're not listening to the voice for God and feeling fatigued and feeling drained. So that's just, so I need to remember that. And what does the next paragraph say? Well, it says, you can speak from the spirit or you can speak from the ego. As you choose, I can speak to you from love or I can speak to you from fear. I'm either speaking to you from love or I'm speaking to you from fear. Now, if you choose to speak from spirit, do you know that if you choose to speak from love, what does that mean? Well, when you speak from love, it means that you've chosen to be still and know that I am God. To be still and know that I am God, it's the same as saying to be still and know that I am love. God is love. The Creator is love. That which created us is love. So when you're speaking from love, that's when you are coming from your God self. That's when you're coming from your divine self. When you're speaking from peace, you're coming from your divine self. You're coming from your spiritual self. So when you say you are God, you are saying you are love. And knowing that you are love, these words are inspired. These words are inspired. Why? Why are these words that I'm telling you from A Course in Miracles? Why are they inspired? They're inspired because they reflect knowledge. So when you say, I am love, when you are choosing to be still and know that you are God, you are love, God is love, when you are willing to be still and know that, then you are reflecting knowledge. You are love. You are spirit. You are a soul. You are a soul. You are a soul. You are a soul. You are spirit. You are mind. You are consciousness. You are awareness. You have a body, but you're not your body. You have a body, but the body isn't you. You have a body, but the body isn't you. The body isn't you. The body isn't you. Your body isn't you. Your body is your device for communication and joining. The body is the medium of communication and joining. You are more than the body. So if you speak from the ego, when you speak from fear, when you speak from anger, when you speak from guilt, you are disclaiming knowledge. Instead of affirming knowledge, you are disclaiming knowledge when you speak from anger, when you speak from guilt, when you speak from fear. So what happens when you speak from anger? What happens when you speak from fear? What happens when you speak from the ego? Then you dispirit yourself. You drain yourself. You depress yourself. When you're speaking from the ego, what happens? When you speak from the ego, which is your wrong mind, the wrong voice, then you feel dispirited. You feel fatigued. You may feel afraid. You feel a lack of peace. So what is it that you are not supposed to embark on? The next line says, do not embark on useless journeys. So why is it that you shouldn't embark on useless journeys? So what would be a useless journey based on what we've covered so far? A useless journey is being on any journey that drains you, doesn't inspire you, makes you feel fatigued, and you don't feel genuine devotion. That's a useless journey. And useless journeys are indeed in vain. Now, there's a part of your mind that's called the ego, which is the part of you that believes that you may be separate or alone or guilty. The part of you that's been trained and conditioned by the world. The ego may desire useless journeys. The ego, your ego, the part of you that's been conditioned by the world, that part of you may indeed desire useless journeys. But your spirit cannot embark on useless journeys. And what is a useless journey? Your spirit doesn't want to do things that don't move you, don't inspire you, that are no fun, and that give you no joy and no peace. Because your spirit, your real self, is forever unwilling to depart from its foundation. What does that mean? That means that there's a part of you that never gets caught up in any of the things that you get caught up in that causes you to be unhappy. Your true self doesn't have guilt. Your true self doesn't feel fear. Your true self doesn't have anger. Your true self doesn't feel separate. Your true self knows it's abundant. Your true self knows it's connected to God. Your true self just doesn't get caught up in all the stuff that the other part of us gets caught up in all day long. So what does that second paragraph just say to us? That you can speak from love or you can speak from fear. If you speak from love, you're going to know that you're God and that everyone is God and you're connected to God, which is love. When you speak from fear, when you speak from what the world has taught you, when you speak from the idea that you're separate, then you're disclaiming knowledge. You're not affirming knowledge. And when you're disclaiming knowledge, what are you doing to yourself? Well, when you are disclaiming knowledge, you are dispiriting yourself. So don't embark on useless journeys. Stop doing stuff that doesn't inspire you. Stop doing things that that doesn't feel good, that doesn't feel loving and free, because you are not listening to your true self if you're doing that. If you're in a relationship and all you feel in that relationship is depressed and unfulfilled and unhappy, you're in a relationship and you're looking at that relationship through the eyes of the ego. And your ego, the part of you that doesn't know the truth, that doesn't love you completely, that part of the mind may desire to go on these useless journeys. But your spirit can't embark on useless journeys. Your spirit is unwilling to depart from its foundation. And what is the foundation of your true self? The foundation of your true self is love. The foundation of your true self is God. The foundation of your true self is oneness. So the journey to the cross should be the last useless journey. So don't dwell on the journey to the cross. The journey to the cross is the journey of sacrifice, the journey of pain. Stop taking the journey to the cross, the journey to fear, the journey to anger. That's the last useless journey. So don't, and then even if you brought up and you were taught about Jesus, going to the cross and being on the cross. The Course in Miracles says, don't dwell on the crucifixion. Just dismiss it as accomplished. And if you accept it as your own last useless journey, then you're free to join in my resurrection. So until you join in the resurrection, which means until you join in the rebirth, until you join in the reawakening, that's all the resurrection means. Until you start waking up to love, then your life is indeed wasted. So what does it mean when the Course in Miracles says you're wasting your life? Your life reenacts separation when you're wasting it. When you're wasting your life, you constantly feel a loss of your power. When you're wasting your life, your fearful mind is constantly trying to, as the Course put it, the futile attempts of the ego at reparation and finally the crucifixion of the body in death. So when we come here, if we don't get in touch with spirit, if we don't get in touch with love, if we don't get in touch with the truth, we just keep going through feeling separate. We keep going through feeling like we're losing our power. We keep going through us trying to constantly fix things and being unsuccessful at doing it. And he says, and finally you go through what the Course calls the crucifixion of the body, which is the body dying. And the Course in Miracles says, you're going to keep doing that over and over and over again until you voluntarily stop. So you're going to keep putting yourself through a million changes of separation and fear until you voluntarily give it up. So don't make the pathetic error of clinging to the old rugged cross. Don't make the error of clinging to your old fears and your old beliefs. The only message of the crucifixion is that you can overcome the cross. That's all the only message of the crucifixion was, that you can overcome the fear, you can overcome separation. And until you overcome the cross, until you overcome your ego, until you overcome your wrong-mindedness, you can crucify yourself as much as you want. You can hurt yourself as much as you want until you decide that you are going to voluntarily stop doing the things to yourself that you know you've been doing in the past that causes you pain and causes you fear. So you are free to crucify yourself as often as you choose, but that isn't the gospel that Jesus intended to offer in the Bible to us. That's not the gospel that love intended to offer us. So what is it that we are doing, Course in Miracles students? What are we doing? Well, look at the next line. We have another journey to undertake. You and I have another journey that we're going to undertake. And if you will read these lessons carefully, do you notice that it says, if you will read these lessons, read these lessons, read these lessons, how? Carefully. Then if you will read these lessons carefully, then what are these lessons going to do? These lessons are going to help prepare you to undertake this new journey that you're getting ready to take. You're getting ready to go on a journey to happiness, a journey to peace, a journey to love, a journey to freedom. But if you read these lessons carefully, these lessons will prepare you to undertake this journey. Often I run across people who actually don't read and study the Course in Miracles from beginning to end, from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. Many times I hear people say they just open the book up wherever it opens up, and that's where they know they need to read it, and then they get whatever it is they need. One of these days, you're going to open that book up, and you're going to scare the hell out of yourself. Because if you open that book up in chapter 30 and you haven't done any of the other chapters, you may see something completely out of context that will blow your mind, and not in a good way. So what I'm telling you is that in order to not be blown away and overwhelmed by what the Course in Miracles teaches in the later parts of it, you have to study the earlier parts of the Course in Miracles very carefully. So we're going to talk about right teaching and right learning. We're going to talk about right teaching and right learning. The Course in Miracles is now going to tell you how to be a good teacher, how to be a good demonstrator. So if I'm in a relationship, or I have children, or I'm trying to teach this to you, the Course in Miracles says that if you're going to be a good teacher, and a teacher is a demonstrator, a good teacher clarifies his own ideas and strengthens his own ideas. So how do you clarify your own ideas if you're going to be a good teacher, which is a good demonstrator? And how are you going to strengthen your own ideas? So if you want to get clear about your own ideas, and if you want to strengthen your own ideas, what do? He says, well, you clarify your own ideas and you strengthen your own ideas by teaching the ideas. For instance, as a good teacher, I'm trying to clarify these ideas, and I'm also trying to strengthen these ideas in myself by teaching. So I want to get clearer about A Course in Miracles and the love and the peace that it promises. And I want to strengthen what the Course in Miracles is saying. So how do I do that? He says, by teaching the ideas. And don't you see that that's what I'm doing right now? I'm teaching these ideas. And every time I teach a class, all of these ideas become stronger in my mind. And everything in your physical reality is a reflection of the ideas in your mind. Everything that you are experiencing is a reflection of the ideas in your mind. Everything that you're feeling, it is a reflection of the ideas in your mind. And if you want the ideas in your mind to become a lot stronger, if you want to have the idea of peace be stronger, if you want to have the idea of love and you want it to be stronger, you have to teach it. To teach it is to demonstrate. The Course in Miracles, the Course in Miracles teaches to teach is to demonstrate. To teach is to demonstrate. So when it says to teach, it's talking about demonstrating. If you're going to be a teacher, you're going to have to be a demonstrator. If you're going to teach your partner, your children, your co-workers, your relatives, you have to demonstrate what you want to teach them. You have to demonstrate. So if I'm going to teach my partner love, my children love, then I've got to demonstrate love. I've got to demonstrate peace. Do you know that the teacher and the pupil are alike in the learning process? You and I are alike. You and I are alike in the learning process. You and I are just alike in the learning process. That means you and I are in the same order of learning. And that means that unless we share our lessons, our conviction is going to be lacking. So the more we share these ideas, then the stronger we're going to believe in these ideas, the more conviction we're going to have in these ideas, because we're in the same order of learning. So we need to share these lessons. We're not here to debate with each other. We're not here to oppose each other. We're here because we want to learn how to let go of every block that keeps us from having a spectacularly wonderful life and perception of life. So, what does a really good teacher believe in? What does a really good teacher believe in? Well, a good teacher must believe in the ideas he teaches. So if I'm going to be a good teacher of A Course in Miracles, I have to believe in the ideas in A Course in Miracles that I'm teaching. A good teacher has to believe in the ideas that they're teaching. So if you're going to be a good teacher to anyone in your life, if you're going to be a good teacher to anyone in your life, then you need to be believing what you're trying to get other people to do. And a good teacher must believe in the ideas that they teach, but a good teacher has to do something else. And what is the other thing that a good teacher has to do? A good teacher has to believe in the students in whom the teacher offers the ideas. So if I'm going to be a good teacher, number one, I have to believe in the Course in Miracles that I'm teaching. And if I'm going to be a good teacher, I have to believe in you. I've got to believe in the students to whom I'm offering the ideas. But that same thing is true for you. If you're going to teach anyone around you anything, you've got to believe in what you're teaching and what you're trying to convince them of. And you also have to believe in the person that you're giving the idea to. So if I believe I want peace with my family, for instance, then I've got to also believe in the ideas that I am trying to demonstrate. But I also have to believe in the people that I'm offering my ideas to. So I believe in you, and I want to believe in you. I believe in you, and I want to believe in you. Because to be a good teacher, I have to believe in the ideas that I'm teaching you. And I also have to believe in you. So, and you can apply that to a relationship. If I'm in a relationship, I have to believe in the person that I'm offering my ideas and communication to. Now, do you know that many stand guard over their ideas? Many people want to protect their way of thinking just as it is. And learning means change. So when you say you want to learn something, you're basically saying you want to change something, because learning means change. So everywhere you see the word learning in A Course in Miracles, you could substitute the word change. Because when you say you want to learn, that means you are saying you are ready to change something. Now, the Course in Miracles says change is always fearful to the separated. Well, who are the separated? Well, we are the separated. We're the ones who think we're separate. We're the ones that think we're bodies. We're the ones who think that we are men and women and male and female and all these different gender differences. We are the ones who think we're separate. So the Course in Miracles says change is always fearful to the separated. Because when you are afraid and you think you're separate and you think you're on your own, the Course says the separated can't conceive of change as a move towards healing the separation. Do you know that most people, when they say that they want to be happy, they are saying to you, can you teach me how I can be completely happy without changing anything about myself? So change is frightening to us. It's hard for us to believe that change is actually going to heal the separation. Do you know that the only problem that you have is that you feel separate from God, according to the Course in Miracles? The only problem that you have is that you feel separate from your source. You feel separate from your Creator. Whether you know it or not, every problem that you think you have is a reflection of your relationship with God. And if you don't have a relationship with your higher power, then it is reflected through all the relationships that you have in your life right now. The relationships that you have around you are a reflection of your relationship with God. And if you have crappy relationships all around you, you have a crappy relationship with God. If you're perceiving yourself as having wonderful relationships with those around you, it's a reflection of your relationship with God. So people who believe that they're separate, people who believe that they are afraid, they always perceive change as a move towards further separation. So why is it that we think that learning is going to produce more separation, that somehow or another changing might not be beneficial? Well, the Course says it's because separation was our first experience of change. So what was our first experience of change? When we started to believe we were separate from God and separate from each other. Our first experience of change was when we left a state of total bliss and total joy to enter into a state that we have fear and anxiety and insecurity. Our first change was the change from experiencing oneness and unity and going into an experience where it looks like we're separate from each other, that we're different from each other. So that's why people don't want to change. The Course in Miracles says, well, your first experience of change was to leave a totally blissful state as a soul and then enter a state where there's a lot of fear and anxiety and separation. So when someone says to us, change, well, we don't tend to jump up and down. So the Course in Miracles says that there's a part of us that believes that if we don't allow any change to enter into our conditioning, that if we don't allow any change to enter into our ego, we believe that we're going to find peace. So that means that many people believe that if they can just keep the position that they're in, hold on to their way of looking at things, even if it doesn't necessarily bring them joy and peace, they think that that's what's going to give them peace. So that is a profound confusion. And the Course says this profound confusion is possible only if you maintain that the same thought system can stand on two foundations. So when you read in the Course in Miracles and it says something and you go, I don't understand what that means, just keep reading. Nothing can reach spirit from the ego. There's nothing that can reach spirit. Spirit is a state of total love and total bliss. So nothing that's coming from anger, guilt, and fear can reach spirit. And nothing can reach a mind full of anger and guilt and fear from spirit. When a person is in their ego, when they're in their insane mind, when they're in judgment or projection or anger or blame, the Course says nothing can reach that mind from love. You know, when someone is out of their mind, out of their loving right mind, you just as well, just be quiet and chill out until they get back to some form of peace. Because when they're in their ego, when another person is in their ego, when another person is angry and upset and insane and projecting and blaming, nothing from spirit, nothing from love is going to be able to reach them. Do you know that spirit can neither strengthen the ego nor reduce the conflict within ego? Because when you say ego, what are you talking about? The ego is a contradiction. So yourself and God's self are in opposition. Who you think you are and God is in opposition. Who you think you are, which is your ego, the Course says yourself and God's self are opposed in source, in direction, and in outcome. That God and the ego, a loving mind and a fearful mind, are fundamentally irreconcilable because spirit can't perceive. Spirit doesn't judge. Perception is judgment. So love doesn't judge. Spirit doesn't judge. And the ego cannot know. The ego is the fearful part of the mind. So a fearful mind cannot know. So what does that mean? It simply means this. Look, when you're angry and upset, you don't know what's going on. That's what it means. That every time you're angry, you are wrong-minded. It means you're looking at something in a way that's not correct. I'll say it again. When you're in your ego, when you're in anger, when you're in fear, when you're in jealousy, when you're in grievances, when you're in lack, you can't know. He says the ego cannot know. A frightened mind has distorted perception. And a distorted perception is a perception that doesn't know what's really going on. So the next time you're upset about something, don't tell yourself you have the right perception of whatever that is. Whenever you are upset, you're not looking at things through your spiritual sight. You're not looking at things through your true self. Now, the Course in Miracles says, so the part of you that's the ego, and the part of you that's spirit, the part of you that's love, and the part of you that's fear, the Course says they are therefore not in communication, and can never be in communication. A mind that's totally peaceful and a mind that's totally in conflict can never be in communication, can never really be in communication. But nevertheless, a frightened mind can learn, the ego can learn, you can learn, you can learn, even though you may be misguided. You see, when the Course says, nevertheless, the ego can learn, even though its maker can be misguided, the ego is who you think you are. So the Course is saying who you think you are can learn, even though you were misguided when you made up the concept about yourself that makes you feel afraid or unhappy. So however you're feeling right now is coming from the meaning that you are giving to whatever the situation or circumstance is that you're dealing with. So you're the one that's making up the way you see things. You're the one that's making up your own self-concept. You're the one that's making up what everybody else is, how you perceive what everybody else is doing. The Course in Miracles says the ego is what? The ego is the part of your mind that thinks it's separate, the part of your mind that feels fear or anger or upset or sickness or lack. Let's get clear about that. The ego is nothing but the voice in your own mind that believes that you are separate and that believes that you are a body. But you're not a body. You're not a body. You are a soul. You are an eternal spirit. You live forever and you've always lived forever. You have now entered the physical body and you are here to learn how to forgive, and you're here to learn how to see things differently and how to let go of anger, guilt, and grievances. This world is an illusion. It's a dream. It's a false idea based on the false idea of us being separate from each other, and we're not. The ego is in your own mind. The sense of separation is in your own mind. You have a loving voice in your mind, and you have a fearful voice in your mind. That part of you that feels afraid, that part of you can learn. But the one thing that you can't do is you can't make the totally lifeless out of the life given. You will never be able to destroy yourself ultimately. You will never be able to end your life. Your life extends beyond the body. You are an eternal being who and what you really are never dies. Who and what you truly are never dies. Now you forgot that. You're in what the Course calls the sleep of forgetfulness. You're like a person with amnesia who's forgotten who you really are. And so now you think you are what the world told you that you are. You may even think that you are what you think you are. But the one thing you can be absolutely sure of is that if your perception of yourself is a perception that doesn't give you joy, then your perception of yourself is wrong. And what you're telling yourself is a lie. So the Course in Miracles says in paragraph 3, chapter 4, section 1, paragraph 3, it says your spirit doesn't need to be taught, but your ego must be taught. The image of yourself that you have, who you think you are, must be taught. And that's what's happening. Right now, I'm teaching the Course in Miracles, and I'm teaching it to who you think you are, right? I'm teaching the Course in Miracles to who you think you are. So to the part of us that's trained and conditioned by the world, then learning is ultimately perceived as frightening. So to your ego, to your self-concept, to your old self, to the self you've been programmed to think you are, learning is frightening. Because when you learn A Course in Miracles, when you learn the truth, when you learn love, it's going to lead to the relinquishment, not the destruction of your ego, not the destruction of your physical identity, to the light of spirit. So you finally listening to the truth. You finally listening to God. You're finally listening to love. This is the change that your ego must fear. So your ego, your old self, your programmed self, the self that you think you are, the Course says straight up that there's a part of you that is afraid of the truth, that there's a part of us that's afraid of this very material that we're studying right now, that there's a part of us that's not very charitable. So Jesus of the Course in Miracles says, my lesson was like yours, because the Course in Miracles claims to be Jesus correcting and sharing his true teachings without the distortions and fears that we were probably taught. Um, so Jesus says, my lesson was like yours, and because I learned it, I can teach it. So when you learn a lesson, you can teach it. So so the Course in Miracles says, I will never attack your ego. So love will never attack you. Uh, your ego is who you think you are. Your ego is your separate self. In the Course in Miracles says, I will never attack your ego, but I'm trying to teach you how its thought system arose. See, I'm not attacking your physical identity. I'm not attacking you as a human being. I'm not attacking your concept of yourself as being a human being. I'm just trying to teach you how your thought system and the thought system of the world arose. So it says, when I remind you of your true creation, so Jesus of the Course says, when I remind you of your true creation, your ego cannot but respond with fear. So that's why sometimes when we hear what the Course in Miracles is teaching, then we become afraid. That's why when we are reminded that we are love and love is the only thing that's real, he says, then your ego, your fearful mind, can't but respond with fear. So basically, what I'm hearing is that as I study the Course in Miracles, I need to understand that there's going to be a part of me that's going to be frightened by some of the things that the Course in Miracles says, even though there's nothing in the Course in Miracles that's there to frighten you. So when you study the Course and you begin to be on the path of spirit, just know that sometimes it's going to upset you. Sometimes you're going to feel afraid, because when you are reminded of who you really are, that you are not a body, that you are an eternal, immortal soul that lives forever, that creates its own reality, that's not a victim of anything, then there's a part of us that might respond with fear. Teaching and learning, what are your greatest powers now? What are your greatest strengths? What are your greatest strengths now? Teaching and learning are your greatest strengths now. Teaching and learning, what does it do? Teaching and learning enables you to change your mind. So demonstrating and learning, that's how you change your mind. Do you know that if you're going to change your mind, you've got to teach? That means you've got to demonstrate love, and you have to learn. It's through teaching and learning that you change your mind. And do you know that when you change your mind, you help others to change their mind? See, right now I'm teaching and learning, and that is my greatest strength. I feel like my greatest strength is teaching and learning, because teaching and learning enables me to change my mind and to help you change your mind. Refusing to change your mind is not going to prove that your separation from God and love hasn't happened. You're not going to get to the love that you want to get to by not changing your mind. The dreamer, the Course in Miracles calls us a dreamer. He says the dreamer that doubts the reality of their dream while they're still dreaming, they're not really healing their split mind. So if you are dreaming, if you are like a dreamer and you're having a dream right now, and the dream seems very real to you. And what kind of dream are you having? Well, you're having the dream of a separated ego. You're having the dream that you are a separate person, and you believe in a world that rests on separation and a separated ego. And the Course in Miracles says, this separated world, you thinking that you are just a body and that you are separate, is very real to you. Everything that you're going through, everything that you believe, everything that you project, the Course in Miracles says, this is very real to you. Well, you cannot undo your fear and anger by not changing your mind about it. You can't undo the separation from God by not changing your mind about it. You can't undo fear and guilt by not changing your mind about it. So what do? If you're willing to renounce the role of guardian of your thought system, if you're willing to renounce the role of guardian of the way that you think, if you will renounce just being the guardian of the way you think, if you will open up the way that you think to spirit, to love, to God, you can even say to Jesus of the course, then Jesus will correct your way of thinking very gently and lead you back to God. Jesus is your teacher. You know, all the great enlightened masters, they are also beyond the body also. And so if you really want to change your mind, then you could have your mind corrected very gently for you. Your mind could be changed for you. Your mind could be changed from guilt to innocence for you. Your mind could be changed from fear to love for you. Your mind could be changed from conflict to peace for you. Your mind could be changed from the belief in lack to the belief in abundance for you, very gently. And you could be led back to God. You cannot do this by yourself. The Course in Miracles says you can forget it. You're not going to be able to give yourself total bliss and permanent happiness on your own by yourself. The Course in Miracles says you don't even know what your own best interest is. You don't really have a big enough picture of everything that's going on to even know what your own best interest is. So you need help. And if you will, just for a minute, open your mind, renounce the role of guardian of the way you think, and open it up to Jesus, open it up to love, open it up to the higher power, however you want to define that, then it will correct your way of thinking very gently and lead you back to God. And to be led back to God, do you know that's the same as being led back to love, led back to freedom, led back to peace, led back home. You all know good and well, if you're a true Course in Miracles student and you are attracted to this, then you are an old soul. You are an old soul. You have incarnated in the body many, many, many times. There are some people who will listen to this and it's going to sound insane to them. And it's not going to be anything I could say that's not going to make them think it's insane, okay? But there are some of you that are watching and that are listening that everything I'm saying is resonating to your very core. That is because you are ready to renounce the role of guardian of your way of thinking, and you're ready to be happy. And you'd rather be happy than to be right. You'd rather be happy than right. You'd rather be happy than right. Would you rather be happy than right? Well, every good teacher hopes to give his students so much of his own learning that his students will one day no longer need him. See, I want to give you so much of my learning that one day you will no longer need me. Any spiritual master, any teacher, any good teacher wants to give their students so much of their own learning until they one day no longer need them. I play saxophone. If I was going to teach somebody how to play saxophone, I would try to teach them how to play saxophone so well that they one day wouldn't need me anymore. Every good teacher hopes to give his students so much of his own learning that they will one day no longer need him. That's the one true goal of the teacher. So what is the one true goal of a teacher? The one true goal of a teacher is for me to give you so much of what I've learned that you no longer need me. What is the one true goal of a really good parent? To give their children so much of their own learning that their children will one day no longer need them. It's impossible to convince someone that's full of fear of this because it goes against the ego's own laws. Now, you're going to see the word that I've been telling you about. The next sentence says, we're in chapter 4, section 1, paragraph 5 in the Course in Miracles text. And it says, remember. See, remember. It said remember. Did not say analyze. It said remember that laws are set up to protect the continuity of the system in which the lawmaker believes. See, laws are set up to protect the system that the lawmaker believes in. What does that mean? It means it's natural for you to try to protect yourself. It's natural for your ego to try to protect itself. It's natural for that part of you that thinks it's separate. It's natural for that part of you that thinks that you are just a human body. It's natural for that part of you to try to protect itself once you have made it. It's natural for your ego to try to protect itself the once that you've made it. It's natural for your ego to protect itself once that you made it. But it's not natural. It's not natural for you to want to obey the laws of the ego unless you believe in the laws of the ego. You see, it's not natural for you to obey the laws of fear unless you believe in the laws of fear. It's not natural for you to believe in the laws of the world unless you believe in the laws of the world. So your ego can't make this choice because you're the one that made up your own ego. But you can make the choice to not listen anymore to the beliefs of the world and the beliefs of fear and the beliefs of guilt and the beliefs of separation. Because your origin is that you are an extension of God. You are an extension of the Creator. You are a creator. You are a creator. So you can choose differently. You can choose differently. You don't have to act according to your programming. You don't have to act according to the lies that the world has taught you about being separate and a body and guilty or sinful or not enough. So who can clash in any situation? Well, egos can clash in any situation. People who are afraid and people who think that they are separate and people who think that they are not one. He says, well, those kind of people are going to clash in any situation. Fearful minds can clash in any relationship, but spirit cannot clash at all. Loving minds can't clash with each other. If you're in a loving relationship, if you have a loving mind, if you're with another loving person, you can't clash with that person. Only fearful, guilty minds clash in any situation. And if you see a teacher is just a bigger ego, then you're going to be afraid. Because when you enlarge an ego, when you make an ego bigger, it just increases anxiety. It just increases anxiety about separation. So how can you tell when you're building a larger ego? How can you tell when you're building larger fear? You feel increased anxiety. Are you feeling a lot of anxiety? Is the world experiencing a lot of anxiety? Well, the world is experiencing a lot of anxiety because the world is increasing its fear. So I will teach with you. Jesus says, I will teach with you, I will live with you if you will think with me. I'm going to finish up within the next 10 minutes. Jesus says, I will teach with you, I'll live with you if you will think with me. See, love will teach you and love will live with you if you will think with love. But Jesus says, my goal will always be to absolve you finally for the need for a teacher. And my goal is to absolve you from the need for a teacher. And this is the opposite of a fearful, ego-oriented teacher's goal. When you're dealing with an ego teacher, the ego teacher is concerned with the effects of his ego on everybody else's ego and interprets their interaction as a means of preserving the ego. So fearful teachers are concerned with the effect of their own personality and ego on other egos. So Jesus says, I would not be able to devote myself to teaching if I believe this. And you won't be a devoted teacher as long as you believe it. Believe what? That you're always concerned with the effect that you're having on other people. And you interpret their interaction with you as a means of maintaining your own image of yourself. So the Course in Miracles is saying, if you're a loving teacher, if you're a true teacher, you're trying to teach everybody everything you know until they get to the point that they don't need you anymore because you've given them everything that you have to give. If it's a wrong-minded teacher, if it's an ego teacher, that person is just concerned about the effect that they're having on other people's egos. And they're just trying to preserve their sense of separation and specialness. And so we won't be able to devote ourselves to teaching and demonstrating the truth if we believe this. And you won't be a devoted teacher as long as you believe it. So Jesus says, I am constantly being perceived as a teacher either to be exalted or rejected. I see that all the time as a Course in Miracles teacher. You mention Jesus, and people either they freak out because of whatever the programming is that they had as children, or they believe that Jesus is the greatest thing, the teacher that they've ever known. But Jesus says, I don't accept either one of the perceptions for myself. So a true teacher would be somebody who don't really see themselves as exalted above anybody else, and they also don't perceive themselves as something to be rejected. So they don't accept rejection for themselves, and they don't accept exaltation for themselves. So I don't care what anybody thinks about me. That's none of my business. I'm just here to be a messenger for love. I finally awakened to the realization that love and peace is going to come from me changing the way I think, and not going to come at all from how I can change anyone and anybody else around me, because the Course says that's a guarantee that you'll never experience true peace if you make any of your peace and happiness dependent on everybody else changing in some way around you in order for you to be happy, because you are spirit. If you don't feel inspired, if you don't feel in spirit, then you are not listening to yourself. You're not listening to your true self. Wow, take a breath. I'm going to do one little quick recap before we finish. I'm Earl Purdy. I'm a full-time teacher of A Course in Miracles, and I do it on a donation basis. So if you would like to share and you feel like you're led to make a financial expression of appreciation, I would truly appreciate that. I'd be grateful for that. And you can go to my website, www.earlpurdy.com, earlpurdy.com. You can use Zelle, you can use Venmo, you can use the Cash App, and you can use PayPal. And all you need is my email address. And my email address is earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. That's Purdy, earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. Also, I'm available for one-on-one personal sessions where I can bring 4 decades of working with different people, helping them get past their blocks and the challenges that they've been going through in using the Course in Miracles. And if you're open to it, then I can also use my 40 plus years of expertise as being a soul purpose astrologer and numerologist. So I have many people that work with me on a one-on-one, because if you can't make this practical, if you can't use it to get rid of the blocks and the fears and the challenges that you're having in your own mind and in your own life, then this really isn't valuable. So I'm here for you, okay? And it's called a clarity session. If you want to have a clarity session with me, go to my website, earlpurdy.com, read in detail about my sessions, and you can self-book a session with me right from my website. I have hundreds of classes on my website that you can watch and listen to for free. I also have hundreds and hundreds of classes on YouTube that you can watch and listen to for free. And I have hundreds of classes right here on Facebook. And then every Thursday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, right here on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook, I do this class. And also on Sundays at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, I do another Course in Miracles class, and I do it on Facebook, as well as I do it before a live audience. What am I telling you this for? I'm here to be truly helpful. Whatever you are going through, there's another way to look at it. If you love the Course like I love the Course, then study with me. I have been doing this for 40 years, okay? Out of pure love, and also recognizing how true it's been. I'm here to be helpful. I'm here to be helpful. I'm here to be helpful. You don't have to continue to suffer unless you want to be right more than you want to be happy. Put as much energy in your own awakening healing process as you put into all the other things that you do in your life. Don't look at your spiritual path as if it's something you're going to get around to after you take care of everything else, because that means that you really are not devoted to your spiritual path as being your way to peace. And you're innocent, but just don't deceive yourself. You know, you have help. You have help, and I'm here to do that. Sign up for my contact list on my website so that I can keep you informed about things that I'm doing that you might want to take part in. Please share these videos. Please share these videos and watch and listen to them 4 times at least. Here's a quick review. Now remember, a good teacher is somebody that clarifies their own ideas and strengthens their ideas by teaching them. You have to believe in the ideas that you are sharing, and you have to believe in the person that you're giving the ideas to. If you really love someone, you feel genuine devotion to that person, which means being with that person is something that inspires you and that it moves you, and it doesn't set you back and it doesn't set them back. Remember that when you're listening to the Holy Spirit, when you're listening to your higher self, when you're listening to your true guidance, you feel inspired and not fatigued. But if you feel drained, if you feel fatigued, you're listening to the ego. You're listening to the wrong voice. You're listening to your own made up advice. If you're going to be a good teacher, if you're going to be a good demonstrator, then you must give everyone around you as much of your learning as you possibly can, to the point that they no longer need you. They might still be with you, but they don't need you. That's important. Remember that you have a true self, and your true self is inspired. Your true self is not fatigued. Your true self is full of love. Your true self is full of joy. Your true self isn't wearied. So your spiritual work is to get rid of the blocks to your being aware of your unafraid, loving, powerful self. And when you're angry, when you're upset, it means that you're listening to the wrong voice. You're listening to your ego. There's no such thing as you being angry, upset, depressed, and afraid, and you're telling yourself the truth. All right? You only deserve love, and you're not alone, and you have a teacher. And forgive Jesus, which by forgiving Jesus, I mean forgive the things that you learned about what that means based on your upbringing and what you've gone through in the past, or what you have experienced in your childhood and your religious upbringing. If you were brought up with the idea of fear around religion and Jesus and Christ and God, the Course in Miracles stands on its own. So we're going to do this, and we're going to do this together. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that there are other people that love A Course in Miracles the way that I do. And I'm so thankful that there are people out there who see me as their teacher and really appreciate what I'm doing, and they believe it's helpful to them, and they resonate to it, because I just want to give you so much of what I've learned that you will no longer need me, even though you may still continue to tune in. You are awesome. I love you. I appreciate you. And may the Course be with you. Share this video, mighty companions. I love you.